Welcome to the next installment of the train Vicar. Today I want to talk about the train that goes right past here, the Coastal Pacific it's called these days. So it goes past St. Paul's at the moment every day, up north in the morning and down south in the afternoon. The first church of St. Paul's in this location was built in 1852. The railway line came past in 1872 and this current church, the new St. Paul's, was built in 1877, or that's when it was opened. So ever since then there have been passenger trains that have travelled past St. Paul's. However, the railway line between Christchurch and Picton was only opened in December 1945. So from that time onwards, I'm not quite sure when, I haven't researched that to a great degree, there have been passenger trains between Christchurch and Picton, just as the Coastal Pacific is today. In the mid-1950s, the passenger trains that were hauled by steam engines were replaced, mainly replaced, by diesel rail cars, especially the Fiat rail cars. So in 1966 there was one Fiat rail car a day in each direction between Christchurch and Picton, or Picton and Christchurch, taking just over 6 hours for the journey. In addition, there was an overnight goods express train with car attached, so that would have been mainly by steam in that days. So that was another way for passengers to travel between Christchurch and Picton, or Picton and Christchurch, with several stops in between. So back in the railcar days, the railcars did not only stop in Kaikoura and Blenheim as the Coastal Pacific does today, but in smaller places like Papanui, Belfast, Amberley and so on. So it was a service that connected those smaller towns as well. In the 1970s, the Fiat rail cars were withdrawn, and instead they were rebuilt to carriages. So from that time on, diesel locomotive hauled the rail cars as carriages now, painted bright green, between Christchurch and Picton and Christchurch. In 1988, the passenger train between Christchurch and Picton was relaunched as the Coastal Pacific Express. It received more luxurious carriages, onboard service, and generally was upgraded at that time. Prices increased as well, and so it became one of the more tourism-orientated trains at that time in 1988. I've got the timetable from 1997 here, and this was the timetable for many years. So the Coastal Pacific left Christchurch at 7:30 in the morning and arrived in Picton at 12:50 p.m, stopping in Rangiora, Waipara, Mina, Kaikoura, Seddon and Blenheim. And then it would return from Picton at 1:40 p.m, arriving in Christchurch at 7 p.m, stopping again at the same places. The service was, by 2006, was no longer called Coastal Pacific or Coastal Pacific Express, but the Trans-Coastal. And by that time, the timetable had slightly changed, still a similar time of just over 5 hours. Now the service would leave Christchurch at 7 o'clock in the morning and arrive in Picton at 12:13 p.m. It would depart Picton at 1 p.m. and arrive in Christchurch at 6:21 p.m. With a focus on overseas tourists, the Coastal Pacific, as it was later called again, didn't operate as much. It was only operated during the summer months. And then in 2016, the Kaikoura earthquake struck. As a result of that, the Coastal Pacific was suspended for a few years and then started operating again in 2019. At that time, timetable was a little bit slower, taking again nearly 6 hours, so similar to the rail cars in the 1960s. So it left Christchurch at 7 o'clock in the morning and arrived back in Christchurch at 8:30 p.m. But now the timetable has changed again. It has accelerated, but it's not quite as fast as the Coastal Pacific was in the 1990s. So now it leaves Christchurch at 7 a.m. in the morning, arrives in Picton at 12:40 p.m. So that's just between 5 and 6 hours, closer to 6 hours. And it departs Picton at 1:40 p.m. and arrives here in Christchurch at 7:20 p.m.
Well, these are all lots of times and statistics. What I really wanted to say with it is that the train hasn't gotten much faster over time, but is stopping at fewer places. That is coupled with another development, and that is the prices. So I'm converting those prices across the years to 2022 dollars or 2023 dollars. You can see the price increase. So, for example, in 1966, the price for a second class ticket between Christchurch and Picton was 33 shillings. That would have been about 75 New Zealand dollars in today's currency. For a first class ticket, it would have been 48 shillings, which is about $110. Now, fast forward a few years to 1997, the standard class, which is probably more comparable to first class, was $72 or $128 in today's money. Normally, there were quite a few saver and super saver fares available, so you probably should have gotten it from about $40 onwards. In 1999, that's a similar one. Then in 2006, it cost $94, which in today's money is $140. But just remember that there were the super saver fares quite easily available. Also, in between 1999 and 2005, or so at very least, there was a backpacker car which cost $35 at the time. That would be about $60 in today's money. After that, the company Naked Bus had a special carriage attached to the train where you could get the fare considerably cheaper. Today, it costs $169 for a one-way fare, sometimes on special $159. Remember that in the old days there were concession fares and family fares, children's fares, and everything like that, which today hardly exists. Children pay a little bit less today, but not much. So the price structure has changed, and so has the purpose of the train. Once it was to connect communities, to connect people across the country, and to facilitate travel. Nowadays, it is a tourist destination and in itself a tourist experience. In a sense, the train is just a relic of its former self. The main purpose is tourism. Of course, we live in a time and age when we would really need trains to connect communities again. When, from an environmental perspective, it would make sense to go by train more, to offer people the availability to travel not totally cheaply, but relatively affordably. The train doesn't do that. I think there's a similar danger with our churches. Today, we need the churches, we need purpose in life, we need Jesus Christ for people. But often churches are seen more as a cultural thing that we can experience, some beautiful relic from an past age, something quaint, so to say, like the strange train traveling between Picton and Christchurch, the coastal Pacific. But if churches become more like a museum or a pastime, then they have missed their purpose. And so I think we can learn from that, and we need to involve both the railways and the churches more in actual life. And the purpose of churches is not some quaint experience, but really to connect with God and to make life worth living.